Alright, give me a few minutes. We'll wait for some more people to hop in and then we will get started. Let me know too if the audio is at all low for you guys and I can try to turn it up. Okay, cool. And Bruno, if you don't have sound, try looking at the bottom left there and make sure your audio is enabled for Twitch. But if anybody else has audio issues, definitely let me know. And all right, so we will get started here soon on the submission reviews. Everything looked really nice with these submissions. So definitely looking forward to checking those out here soon. Welcome everybody. And let me know if my Twitch volume comes back in the stream. But yeah, let me go ahead and get diving in here. So we got a few submissions for this challenge. A submission from Bruno, a submission from Alex, and a submission from Michael. So we will definitely dive into these. Real quick for anyone who hasn't seen, this is basically a Vietnam era aircraft controller. So lots of focus here was on the detail, mainly of the textures. Kind of looking forward to seeing what everybody came up with. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into Bruno's submit here. I'm just going to take a look at his texturing. It's all looking really nice. Let me see if I can move this over here. Yeah, really nice work with the material breakup. Sweet. Perhaps here the dirt generator is looking slightly generated looking. What you could try to do to kind of break it up is either using a paintbrush to add some more variation around here, such as like an alpha. Sometimes the blur slope filter can also help you break some of that up. But that'd be my only note with that one. Also, it's starting to look slightly flood fill right here. So adding some more noise and variation in the alpha, so that way it's not pulling up a 100% value of the dirt there. Okay, yeah, if anyone has any issue with sound, let me know. Seems like a couple people are okay with the audio, so sweet. But yeah, let me know. This is my first time streaming on Twitch, so there might be some random technical difficulties. So just give me a shout out if so. And let me take a look at the low poly here. Yeah, this is looking really nice. Oh, here we go. Yeah, that's a better shot. Yeah, really nice work making sure the wireframe right here is more optimized, where there's less surface or curvature. Yeah, this is looking really nice. I'd say for right here, you could probably optimize some more of the triangles here, kind of like what you did here. Just collapse some of these edges so that way it doesn't have so many edges right here. You can kind of see the discrepancy right here. Um, like right here looks really well optimized, really great work on that. It's just right here's getting slightly too dense. Um, and sometimes too, it can look a bit more clean on the model when these edges here line up. And it'll also prevent the faceting from kind of fighting each other right there. So getting those edges realigned would help too. Apologies, I recently got over a cold, so I believe I can mute my mic on OTBS, so I'll try to mute myself on OBS before I cough. Um, yeah, this is looking really nice texturing work. I did see on the reference here the buttons tended to have some variation on the seam here. Let me check that out. Yeah, you do have some of that there. It looks like it's on the tip. I'll try to get some more dirt around the seam on the trigger right there. Really nice work on the details down here. That's looking really nice. One thing you could do with the height image here, I noticed it tends to inset and it kind of creates this island, but there's not really an actual depth or a pillow shape in there. It kind of just turns into a flat face right there, which can look a bit strange. Um, so to create that type of pitting, I'd probably use like a blur slope or some type of smudge in this to get some more variation on that. Let me check chat real quick. Okay, yeah. Okay, Igor mentions that sounds a little low for him. Let me turn it up. Might catch my keyboard or mouse clicks every once in a while, so apologies about that, but I'll turn up the audio for some of those. On the button, I'd probably add some like dark variation here, maybe from the thumb rubbing against the red paint there, and possibly darkening it quite a bit. I think I saw on one of these textures on the web, it had some variation from that usage. This one, okay, it looks like only this one has it, but you can see it gets a little dark right there from the contact. Yeah, everything else on this is looking really nice. Not quite seeing much else. No, okay, one note I did have for this one, I noticed the knurling had a pretty sharp cutoff right here on the texture. What you could do to address this is use the UV border generator and set it to subtract, and it'll give it more of a softer transition, so that way you don't have this very sharp UV looking cutoff right here. So just using a UV border generator set to subtract with some gradation distance will help that gradate a bit better on the knurling. And yeah, one other thing too with the dust, you want to be a bit careful. I can tell just by the shapes of it, it has kind of like that default substance painter grunge on the shapes of the dirt generator here. So in those cases, to break those up, again, using an alpha or manually brushing that in will help break that up for you. You could perhaps use a bit more alphas. I think this one could use some more alpha stencils, like maybe an interesting scuff here, just to give it some interesting shapes in the wear. Let me see if this one has a pretty good example. Kind of like this stuff here, it's just very interesting shapes happening on the edges around there. Same here, just very interesting worn out shapes on the grip there. But other than that, that's looking really nice. I'll go ahead and check the UVs. For this one, I'm not gonna expect too much mirroring. And all of this is pretty asymmetric, so pretty understandable if you're not able to get away with too much mirroring. Um, yeah, unless I have the Blender file, I'm not going to be able to tell, but if you don't have the bottom of this piece mirrored, that's one thing you can try is mirroring it. You may have already done that actually, if that's the shape. So there's so many shapes on this, it's hard to tell. But that's one trick you could do is just mirror the bottom of this piece down there if it's symmetric. But yeah, other than that, the UVs look good. I'm not seeing any stretching. This seems look to be placed quite well. Not seeing any issues with that so far. Yeah, that's looking really nice. Yeah, that's looking great. Has anyone got any thoughts so far? Yeah, it's really nice work from Bruno. And yeah, let me know if the audio is off at all. And I just realized I chose the wrong monitor when I streamed this, so apologies. You're gonna be looking at the side of my head quite a bit. But yeah, with that, let's move on to Alex's submission here. Yeah, so with Alex's, you've got some really nice texturing here. I like the subtlety. You did a really nice job on making sure you didn't add too many details. So it has that subtlety that really helps play in with that photorealism. That's a big thing too, with just textures in general. If you try to avoid adding too many details, it can become easier to make it feel photorealistic. Versus the more details you add, it starts to make it much more difficult to hit that photorealism. So you struck a really nice balance on this. I'd say perhaps maybe some more details in the albedo map here. Um, Possibly some like scuffs or chips on the side of the plastic here would be really nice. Um, you do have a bit of that going on. Perhaps the scratches here, like in that dipped in area, it's going to be not as likely that a scratch will happen in there. So you could use like a dirt generator and set it to subtract, and it will remove a lot of those scratches from the crevices where it's less likely to happen. Um, and that'd be a nice touch to it. It helps it feel a bit more realistic. One thing you could do for these crevices though is add some like gunk in the height channel, kind of like what you see with the. I'm not sure if you've ever seen like a actual console remote. If you don't clean them, it's just gonna get quite a bit of gunk and grime on the remote. And basically that same idea applied to this remote. So adding some type of gunk to the height would be pretty cool to see inside that crevice. The rust around this looks really nice. If you wanted, you could probably add a little bit of rust happening on the plastic here. But maybe with what you got is fine. Like especially right here, it makes sense why the rust isn't going to leak out. Everything is pretty well contained in there. But the texturing on it's really nice. Even down to the screw here, I really like that you got quite a bit of nice variation and even wear on top of the rust right there on the screw. So really nice work on that. I think kind of the same thing Bruno was running into on his dirt generator. It does seem like it's collecting a little too much right here. I'll probably pull it back just slightly or give it some more gradation. But other than that, let me check the reference real quick and see if I may have missed anything. You can kind of see the gunk I was referring to right here. especially right here, it has some like height variation to it, which is pretty interesting. You could try adding some more like gashes into the grip. Maybe just one or two would be pretty nice. There's not a great angle on the chipping right here, but this type of chipping is really, really nice. You could try exploring with that. One thing too, maybe the trigger is a little dark. You could try brightening it up a bit. I think the albedo map for those parts are getting slightly dark compared to the reference. But yeah, I'll check the low poly here in a second. Yeah, no problem, Bruno. Yeah, sweet. And yeah, let's take a look at the low poly. I think the low poly on this one could be optimized a bit further. Bruno has a pretty solid example here with his low poly. He optimized it quite a bit in areas where it needed. Then areas that have quite a bit of curvature, he made sure it was fairly dense in the topology, which is certainly the route you want to go about it. But for this one right here, I think the topology could get optimized just a bit further. I notice here too, it's clipping in here, which nowadays for most game engines, you're probably not going to get a light leak. Probably back in the day, you would get a light leak from something like that. But if you want to go more of a cleaner route, I'd probably just get these two meshes attached, kind of like what you got going on for that bottom one there. You can kind of see what Bruno did here on his low poly. He made sure those were welded. But I think apart from welded, just the wireframe feels a bit like decimated from ZBrush. So what you could try is maybe realigning the wireframe. It's hard to tell because it's triangulated. So I'm not sure if this was a result from ZBrush or maybe just the wireframe, the edges weren't aligned right here, so because that can cause that. So maybe just trying to get the edges a little more aligned will clean that up a bit more. And doing so will help you to optimize or reduce it a bit further. One other thing too, for anyone out there submitting low polys, it's not a requirement, but I would recommend submitting your low poly, or even for ArtStation when you're showing a low poly, to present it in quads, and it just makes it a bit easier to look at, because some things on here I might review and it actually might be something due to the triangulation and not necessarily the wireframe. So sometimes keeping it in quad can be a bit easier to review. But yeah, other than that, this is looking really nice. Like right here too, it's hard to tell, but it looks like there's a double or triple bevel here. Same for here, that could probably get cleaned up a bit. So just a bit more optimization on there. But other than that, really, really solid work on the texturing on this, Alex. It came out really nice. But yeah, if anyone has any other notes or thoughts or questions, feel free to ask it in the chat. Yeah, the rust on this bolt in particular is really, really nice. Oh, Yugo Dev. I don't think that's Igor. Sorry, I think I thought Yugo Dev was Igor. Yeah, the reference program we're using is PureRef. Sweet. But yeah, with that, oh, I'm sorry, I actually forgot to check the UVs on this one. Let me double check that real quick. Yeah, the UVs are looking pretty solid. Not exactly sure what's happening right here, um, but I mean, it could be something with the model, not necessarily something broken with the UVs, but if it is, maybe just double check the spot there. But if it's just part of the grip design with how you had to break it up, no worries at all. That was looking really nice. If this is a low poly view as well, make sure you connect these edges with these ingons, because sometimes the engines can do some crazy stuff with vert connecting with the wrong vert, and it can create some odd shading errors or um, reformations with the surface. So watch out for that. But other than that, UVs are looking quite solid. So yeah, really nice work on that. Um, yeah, one thing I forgot to check with Bruno's UVs, but he actually did a pretty good job on it, was straightening the UV shell. So both of you did a really nice job on that. Sweet. Um, so I guess we'll move over to Michael's submission. It's kind of funny. You did a really good job, like literally matching the reference. It's kind of hilarious from this distance. It's pretty hard to tell what the reference and what the model is. So really nice job trying to match that for sure. Yeah, this one came out really nice. Probably the only issue I see with this render is the trigger is looking a little bright in the diffuse value. Um, so you might want to tone that down a bit. Um, and for the bolts here, I'm not quite sure what it could be. Um, it could be the lighting or something wrong with the PBR. I'd just double check that. Like if you see the bolt on Alex's here, it reads pretty well. Um, versus it in this render, there's something off with it. Apologies again. But there's something off with it. It could be there's maybe the diffuse was put in the specular channel. I'm not too sure. Um, Let me double check here. Oh, okay, cool. Gotcha. Yeah, I've been using the scroll wheel click for quite a while. It's kind of an old habit that's hard to break out of. But yeah, apologies if my mic's picking up that clicking from my mouse. But other than that, the rest of this came out really nicely. Um, there's a bit of an odd shape right here, but maybe that's part of the reference actually. Yeah, I guess it is in the reference right there. Okay. Yeah, that's making sense now. Yeah, this is definitely a tough challenge because, or at least a tough challenge for me to judge because all of you did a really nice job on it. Um, Perhaps aware right here, you could try moving it over to kind of this area right here. It's a little more exposed. Um, but I'm not sure. It's kind of strange because it's reading a bit like dust, but it's also reading a bit like wear. Um, yeah, I think it's due to the shapes. The shapes you have here look like wear or chip shapes, which look nice. But they're also using the same color as the dust. So it's causing some, I think, slight confusion in terms of the readability. Um, so I'd probably make the dust like a separate texture layer, um, and then make the wear shapes. I would leave the wear shapes as they are, the pretty white color. Let me double check the reference though, honestly. Okay, yeah, look at the reference. The wear is not even that bright. It's pretty faded. You can see there. Um, Looks like when it gets worn, it usually just turns into mostly height information. Um, so I'll probably keep most of that dust in the color and then the actual damage. You can hint it slightly in the diffuse, but um, looking at the reference here, it looks like it's a majority height damage, or sorry, height channel information. Yeah, let me check out this other stuff here. Yeah, this the organic shapes on this remote, I'm sure it was very difficult for all of you to tackle. So really nice work on it. Especially trying to CAD model this. It looks like some of you did do this in CAD, so really nice work. But yeah, I think with this one, it came out really, really nice. Just other than this render, I think is probably the one where it's slightly off. It really could just be the lighting, honestly. But yeah, other than that, really nice work. Just, usually takes me a good time to look at reference to get some good ideas for something that may or may not be needed. Really nice work with the gunk on the trigger there. That looks really nice. But yeah, probably the biggest things that come out to me on this particular texture is just adding some more wear. I think that a few other submissions kind of struggled with this too, but some type of directional damage chip on the side of these really exposed parts would really help. I saw some height damage too, like right here, the little height chips. That would also help. But yeah, with that, let me take a look at the low poly. Yeah, low poly's looking really nice. I believe, not sure, I think it was Michael mentioned he updated his low poly. Okay, yeah, here, let me just grab that real quick. Makes it a bit easier when it's in quad to get a better idea. There we go, let me just remove these guys. Sweet. Yeah, this one's looking really nice too. I think with these edges, you could collapse them a bit more, kind of like what Bruno did here on his grip. You can see did a pretty solid job on the low poly. But other than that, really nice work with the topology on this one as well. Perhaps it I could be wrong, but it looks like the shading's getting slightly harsh here, so you want to watch out for that. Sometimes with the engines, harsh shading can break and cause some odd tangent errors. If you ever seen in games where you're in bright lighting and you see those odd triangulation errors, it's likely because of the low poly had some shading errors. So watch out for that, but it looks like it's in decent control, so it's probably not an issue. It's usually like a flat surface like the trigger. It looks like you got some control loops actually right here on the trigger to control that shading. In that case, what I'd probably do is just add a UV seam there, and it'll just add a hard edge, and it'll address that. So if you run into that, sometimes it's easier to add a UV seam and just sharp shade the shading right there. But really, it's really case by case basis. Perhaps the button right here could get optimized a bit more. It almost looks a bit like maybe you use like a cube and subdivided it. That's certainly one way you could do it. Let me look at the buttons on this one. Like, yeah, the buttons on this one's a little slightly too dense. But yeah, the topology here on Alex is probably what I would go for that button. I think this button over here was made from like a cube, which is fine. You can totally do that. I think just with the topology though, it does cause some strange formations with the quads here. But again, if it's not really game breaking, but something you can certainly look into. The cylinder boolean cutout here might be slightly too dense. I'd probably make it like a 12-sided cylinder for that. But yeah, other than that, topology on this is looking really good. Especially right here, you did a really good job cleaning that up. So nice work. So yeah, with that, I'll move on to the UVs. And yeah, the UVs are looking really good. Nice and straight. Perhaps the only feedback I'd have for the UVs in particular with this one is they're really close to each other. And you want to be cautious of that, especially with this case. They're extremely close. And what happens is as the texture MIPS, so if this controller is put into an actual vehicle inside a AAA game and um, let's say it's MIP down to like a 512 by 512 texture, you'll start seeing the bleeding, meaning like this red button here, the UVs can actually start bleeding onto the main grip here. So you might actually see like the red from the button bleeding right here. So probably add some more padding on these UV shells so that way you don't have that happening. The padding on this one looks pretty good. Let me double check this one. Yeah, this one's pretty solid. So just something to watch out for. Um, but other than that, really nice job matching the reference, especially when I zoom out, it looks near identical. So nice work on that, Michael. But yeah, does anyone have any questions, comments, or thoughts? Feel free to drop them in the chat. Oh, the white wear on the grip. Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Um, oh, I see. Yeah, 4 pixels is probably a little too tight for that UV pack. I'd probably increase it some more just to get some more space out of that. My texturing tutorial. I don't know. It would be really hard to compete with Dan's ability to really put that stuff in a video. It's definitely a whole nother side of skill trying to do like a texturing tutorial. Um, so yeah, no, I don't have any plans for a texturing tutorial, but um, you know, maybe we'll do some more streams and I'll do a tip here and there. Um, but yeah, with that out of the way, seems like nobody has any questions or thoughts. So um, let me see second place. This again, this is really hard. Uh, Everybody came up with some really solid stuff. Um, hmm. Yeah, this is a really tough decision. um, I feel like out of everyone, Bruno did a really sharp job with his low poly. Um, he really nailed it out of the park with his low poly. Um, and then for the texturing, everybody's really neck and neck on that. I think Alex really came up on pretty high level with his textures. Yeah, it's a really difficult choice. Um, yeah, I think for the texturing, Alex is probably on top with the texturing. He really nailed it with these details, especially the variation on the rust on those bolts. Um, Definitely some areas where it could be pushed slightly, like the trigger slightly too dark. But other than that, um, Alex, he did a pretty solid job. But yeah, so really nice work on that. And Mitchell's even looks pretty identical to the reference, so very hard to choose. But yeah, so for second place, I think we'll go with Alex for second. Really nice job, Alex, on second. And for first, it's getting really hard. I think in terms of the low poly and texturing, Bruno did a pretty solid job on the texturing. I think some of the textures is slightly flood filling with the textures, but you know the low polys definitely feels industry standard to me. There's a few areas that could be tweaked a bit, but the low poly came out really solid. I think on Michael's low poly, it just could get crunched a bit more, perhaps on the back here. Maybe reducing the screw slightly. But even Michael's low poly came out really solid. I think this button here definitely could get cleaned up slightly more. But man, that's a difficult choice. I think with the winner, I think Bruno will probably be our first place. He did a pretty solid job on both the UVs, low poly, and the textures are pretty solid. My only thoughts though with the textures is just you want to avoid those grunge, but other than that, congratulations, Bruno. I was really neck and neck with all three of you guys, so really nice work to all three of you. Even Michael, you did really solid on this, honestly. Yeah, it really is a difficult choice, but yeah, we will do Bruno first place. But again, honestly, it's pretty crazy how close all three of you guys were. But yeah, and so if you want Bruno, I can shoot you a message tonight after the stream, and we can plan the 1.5 hour call. And then Alex, I'm not sure what region you are, but I'll chat with you as to if you're wanting one of Dan's tutorials or the gift cards. I'll chat with you on that. Yeah. I think Bruno's texturing. I think Bruno's textures um, probably struggle a bit compared to Alex and Michael's, but he really nailed it out of the park with the optimization and the UVs. And his texturing, it's slightly off, but it's not too off. So I'm definitely looking forward, Bruno, to doing a call with you and seeing where you can get the textures at for sure. But yeah, congratulations though to all three of you guys. You did really nice work. All right, and one thing I was gonna ask, does anyone have any suggestions for what would that be, the 25th challenge? Oh, is there a fourth submission? Let me check. Oh no, wait. I'll check your submission, but yeah, apologies, you submitted it after the challenge closing, but I'm definitely fine with giving you feedback. Yeah, it looks like he submitted after 6, so apologies, I missed that one. No, you did do 5:52. I don't know how I missed that one. Strange, unless my Discord's bugging. Okay, well, let's put Tala back in. But yeah, maybe just for future reference, we'll close submissions an hour before stream, just to make things a bit easier. But yeah, let me add his in here. All right. And yeah, I was gonna, as I was mentioning, if anyone has any ideas for the next competition, definitely let me know for sure. Okay, cool. So we got 4 contestants total. Sweet, I think I got everything. So yeah, let me take a look at your submission. And I believe your name is pronounced Tala. Apologies if I'm not getting that correctly. Here's Tala's submission. Let's grab our ref images here. Sweet. That's looking really nice. I think the low poly for this one is slightly too dense as well. I'll probably just crunch some more of these center edges here. The edges in blue are glowing quite a bit. Usually when it glows like that in Maya, it's usually a telltale sign that it's slightly too dense. So I'd probably just remove every other edge on that, or just find a way to crunch it down a bit. Other than that, this is looking good. I think the cylinder here could get crunched down slightly. And the button is a little too dense as well, just slightly. But other than that, the low poly is looking pretty good. As for the textures, they're slightly too sharp, so I'd pull back on the sharpen just a bit, and then there's some brush marks here. Yeah, these look a bit like paintbrush marks, so I'd probably pull back on that a bit, give it more of a gradient, kind of like what you got going on down here. And again, be careful with the textures here because these are looking a bit too sharp. And then right here, I think this could be the lighting with yeah, one thing with the lighting here is I think it might be blowing out the diffuse map, but it's hard to tell. It could just be Marmoset's lighting, or it could be something wrong with the PBR, but it's hard to tell. I think some of these though, it is with the lighting, so maybe just watch out for that though. And yeah, someone mentioned in chat, which is a good point, rotate your screws so that way they're not perfectly vertical. That's a good point for sure. And similar to the other contestants as well, darken, add some more variation on the button, on the reference I'm seeing here where it gets a bit darker from the thumb. Other than that, it's looking really nice. Yeah, it's looking sweet. Yeah, I think the button is looking a bit orange compared to the reference. It tends to have more of this reddish look, as well as get some more gunk in the trigger here. Especially right here, you can see the gunk in the trigger right there looks pretty nice. Some more details like that would really help out. I'm not quite seeing the buttons here. Oh, it could be due to the modeling maybe. It looks like on the reference this piece is expanded out a bit more to leave room for these buttons here. Or I'm sorry, not the buttons, the text. Maybe maybe too it's the dirt, it's not helping. It's making it a bit tricky to see that text. Perhaps some more grunge build up to brighten up the text in the buttons here too. You can see here it's pretty dark. So touch that up a bit. Um, some more height damage and dings and nicks would help too. But other than that, let's see. There's quite a bit of damage on the back here. Some of that would be nice too. But yeah, this is looking really, really good. But yeah, keeping in mind that we got Tala's submission too. I'm gonna move these back up here, but let's double check the low poly. I think the low poly, some of the other submissions, again, I cough a bit because I got over a cold like a month ago and got a leftover dry cough, so apologies. Um, but like some of the other submissions, the bevel here is slightly too dense, so I'd probably remove an edge or two. Perhaps even this bevel, you could remove an edge or two on it, just so that way it's not glowing blue. Same for up here, it's looking slightly dense, but no, it's hard to tell for this one exactly. But yeah, the rest on that is looking good. It does seem like there's some formation differences on this one compared to the others. I'm not sure why. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm noticing it. I think the finger grooves could be pronounced a bit more. It looks like on the reference it bulges out slightly more. Um, yeah, but other than that, let me check actually the reference on these other ones for their modeling. It's really difficult to check for like proportions without like the actual 3D file. So I'll just do my best checking it, but I think generally everybody was pretty on target with the proportions. Yeah, the proportions are looking pretty good. It's really hard too to judge proportions because if the screenshot's taken in orthographic, it can really affect what the proportions look like. Let me double check and make sure. All right, cool. Looks like we got all the submissions now. Apologies, Tala. I don't know how I missed yours, other than maybe my Discord was bugged. Um, or it looks like I missed it. It was apologies. It looks like it was at 5:52, so 8 minutes before my stream, and I was busy troubleshooting something. So apologies about that. But with all these back in play, um, I still feel like Bruno did a pretty solid job with his and his low poly, as well as the UVs. And I'm sorry, I forgot to check the UVs on yours. Let me actually do that right now. I would try to straighten up some of these shells, like this one right here that's curved. Give it some more straighten. And same thing for this one. I think it was Michael's, right? Yeah. Similar to Michael's, your shells are a bit too tight. They're a little too close to each other, which is going to cause some bleeding issues. So I'd give them some more padding, similar to Bruno's here. There's plenty of padding left over for it. Other than that, though, looks like you did a solid job on that. Again, make sure the ngons get resolved because some game engines can have issues with the ngon. So just doing some edge connections can help clean that up. But yeah, other than that, now that Tala's is in play, I still feel like Bruno is going to be our first, and then Alex on our second. And most of this judgment is going down to like the UVs and the low poly. let's see here. Yeah, but Michael really did a nice job on his textures. Um, I think just the UVs could be spaced out more. That the padding issue can really break inside the game. That would be the only thing. But really nice work on your texturing, Michael. And even Tala's textures came out really nice. I think the most improvements with yours, Tala, is just the low poly, getting some of these edges optimized a bit further, especially here where it's turning solid blue. And then the UV padding could get spaced out a bit, as well as straightening this guy right here. Um, but other than that, really nice work, all four of you. Um, so yeah, that is all four of our contestants. And yeah, thanks Igor for letting me know about uh, the uh, the miss submission. I'm glad you caught that. Let me check. Some of you were discussing some next challenge ideas. Let me check that. Yes. Okay, someone was suggesting like an AK grip for the next challenge. Um, yeah, does anybody have any other ideas for the next challenge and what you'd like to see there? Looks like the main suggestion I see here is like a big leg grip. Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. With that, it just being a grip, it could be a bit too boring. Um, oh yeah. Okay, the AK big light bayonet. Okay, apologies. Yeah, that could be actually really interesting for sure. Okay, yeah. Well, if anyone has any ideas, feel free to put it in the challenge discussion. Um, yeah, yeah. If anyone has ideas for the next challenge, definitely drop it in that challenge discussion in the Discord. Um, but other than that, thanks everyone for hanging out and watching the review. Um, and happy holidays to everyone. And I'll go ahead and end the stream here. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.